Willie D Live.
What's up, family? It's heating up. Based on court documents and the prosecutor's allegations, as of May 1st, 2026, I want to share with you some key bullet points in the case of David Anthony Burke, otherwise known as David, and Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who was 14 years old when her dismembered body was found in the trunk of David's Tesla vehicle. Yeah, fam. And as you know, David has been arrested. And there are people who are calling for his execution. Yeah, they say, dude is too demonic. He is the devil himself. And they want him all the way gone. They want to 86 him. Yeah. So let's get into some of the key bullet points. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was 14 years old. She's from Lake Elsinore, California. Prosecutors allege David Burke met Celeste when she was 11 in 2022 and began a sexual relationship in November 2023 when she was just 13 years old. Celeste was reported missing in February and April 2024, often running away to the Hollywood Hills area. Prosecutors claim Burke paid a classmate $1,000 to give Celeste a phone to bypass parental control and maintain at all times, abusive relationship. I want to pause for a moment on the key points and just say this. Celeste ran away from home several times. So despite her alleged tumultuous relationship with her parents at home, she ran away to the Hollywood Hills area many times. Every time she come back, they get her back, she take off again. And at one point, well, I'll tell y'all this part later because this is key. This is key. So let's get into the crime. Prosecutors allege that Celeste was murdered on or about April 23rd, 2025. Prosecutors claim Celeste threatened to expose their relationship to end Burke's career and destroy his life, prompting him to silence her. She was allegedly stabbed to death in his Hollywood Hills home. Prosecutors claim Burke bought 2 chainsaws and a blue inflatable pool to dismember her body in his garage, where her DNA was later found. Her remains were allegedly kept in a Tesla registered to Burke for months. On September 8, 2025, her dismembered, badly decomposed remains were found in the trunk of Burke's Tesla in a Hollywood Hills tow yard. Released April 22nd, 2026, the autopsy ruled the death a homicide caused by multiple penetrating injuries, stab wounds. The report indicated her arms and legs were severed, and she had a tattoo reading "shh" on her finger, similar to the one Burke has. Prosecutors report having 40 terabytes of digital data, including significant child pornography on Burke's phone and text messages discussing the murder. David Burke, 21, was arrested in Los Angeles on April 16, 2026. Formal charges include first-degree murder with special circumstances, lying in wait, financial gain, contentious sexual abuse of a child under 14, and a mutilation of body. Burke has pleaded not guilty to all charges. If convicted, he faces life without parole or the death penalty. I ain't got no problem with that. And here's why. Well, first of all, let me say this. I have always been against the death penalty in terms of state sanctioned death because they make a lot of mistakes. And there have been a lot of innocent people killed. I knew one personally who was killed. He was innocent. He was a bad actor. And he did a lot of things. But he didn't do the thing that they said he did that they killed him for. And they knew that. But they wanted to punish him anyway. Because once they get you on death row in Texas, your ass is grass. And that's just how it is. So, but what I do, well, let me put it like this. What I do understand is sometimes you got to do what you got to do. If it happened to your family member and you got to get some get back, I ain't mad at you. I ain't going to be mad at you. But I'll say this. This dude, I do believe, is the devil. I know some of y'all ain't going to like that. But I believe everything, well, I ain't going to say everything because the police do be lying a lot. They lie a lot. But this is way too much. The evidence is overwhelming. His behavior, overwhelming. Yeah, man, it's overwhelming. And I've been covering this from day one. So this ain't me just jumping on no bandwagon and just saying anything. I've been covering this from day one. I've been following this case very closely. I think he did it. I really believe this dude did it. And here's the thing. The reason why it took them so long to bring charges is because when you're going after a celebrity, and these people in LA County, they know because they fumbled the ball a few times on high profile cases. You got to make sure you dot those I's and cross those T's, and you got to make sure ain't no wiggle room. They have been collecting evidence against this dude for months. They could have went in months ago and arrested him. That was definitely sufficient amount of circumstantial evidence to make an arrest. But they waited. They continued to collect evidence and they continued to get witness reports, collect witness reports. His ass is grass. And I absolutely believe he did it. If you consider his behavior, his personality, away from this case, this dude was, pretty much acting out this type of scenario in his videos. He got a video where he kidnapped a woman and put her in the trunk. I'm not sure if she was supposed to be dead or whatever, but I know I saw him put a woman in the trunk. I think it was supposed to be a dead body. But in any event, he just a strange dude, in a lot of demonic rituals and all that kind of stuff. This is not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched that he would do something like that. I do want to address this. In my previous video about this case, I mentioned how Celeste, even though she was a kid, 13 years old, 14 years old when she was killed, that she was defiant with her parents. She ran away several times. And oftentimes young people will run away from home for different reasons. Sometimes they just don't want to abide by the rules at home. Sometimes they're being abused. Sometimes their lives are really in danger. I don't know what her specific circumstances were. However, I do know that her parents tried to recover her a few times, and she continued to run off. I mentioned that she threatened to expose David, and that triggered him to kill her. or as they say in the media, silence her, right? Now, that's a fact. That's a fact. She threatened to expose him, and that triggered him to want her dead, you know. Now, here's the deal. If indeed he killed her for that reason, my point was that triggered her. I mean, that triggered him. It was not to blame the victim, but here's the thing that we have to understand, and I'm totally reminding at all times, and I'm measuring my words because this is a child, so I don't want to just go crazy with this. I want to make sure that I'm clear about this. Yes, David was the adult, and yes, kids' minds are underdeveloped, so they make a lot of stupid mistakes. And one might say that, well, because she was underage, she cannot have any responsibility for how things went down. I find it extremely interesting that when a child goes out and robs somebody and kills somebody, it doesn't matter if they're male or female, everybody say, get them, put them in jail. If they cuss out the teacher, if they beat up somebody at school, if they tab the house, tab their parents' house, they jump on their grandmother, they knew what they were doing. No matter how old they were. They can be 11, 10. Oh, no, he crazy. They got to do something about her. Oh, they got to get out of my, I'll beat that ass and I'll belt the ass. It's everything. Everybody got a remedy. Everybody got some type of punishment that they are going to apply to that kid. If they do anything, they can murder somebody. And we as a society say we're going to hold them accountable. Yeah, we may not hold them accountable to the extent that we will hold an adult, but they will be held accountable. You don't just get to get a free kill in this country, right? We're talking about murder. However, whenever it comes to sexual or intimate relationships, many of us will say, well, his mind was underdeveloped. Her mind was underdeveloped, so we can't blame him at all. I think this sends out a bad message to kids who are listening to these messages, listening to us have these conversations, because some kids are very cunning. Some kids are smarter than you would ever. Some kids are smarter than us grown folks who've been here 30, 40, 50, 60 years. They sharp, super sharp. You've heard people say stuff like, oh, he been here before. Oh, she been here before. Yeah, some of these kids are extremely cunning. And so they hear us saying that they cannot be held responsible for this or that. And so some of them will try. Some of them will go into situations knowing that they're not going to be held accountable. And all they got to do is play the victim. And yes, they are a victim to an extent, but they also are responsible for their actions. And they're very acutely aware of that. This is what I'm saying. I knew when I was 10 years old. I knew when I was 5 years old when I was doing wrong. I knew, yes, my brain was underdeveloped, but I knew when I was doing wrong. At 5 years old, I knew when something was inappropriate. At 5, I knew you don't sit on grown folks' laps, grown men's laps, grown men laps. You don't, force kids to, you don't kiss somebody or let somebody kiss you that you don't want to kiss you on your cheek or whatever, right? You don't kiss grown folks in the mouth, no matter who it is, right? I knew all of these things. You don't go and steal out of that store. If I'm stealing, I'm trying to be sneaky with it because I know I ain't supposed to be doing it. So I knew. So I'm just saying, fam, I'm a strong advocate for victims of SA. This is why I want Trump to go down so hard. And not just him, it's others out there. This is why I was so hard on Africa Bambaataa when he died. You know, I work with people who have been SA. You know, like I work with kids, like, you know, for years. You know, so I'm absolutely empathetic about, you know, what people experience. But I'm just also a person who believes in self-accountability. I knew early on, if I do this, this is going to happen. If I do this, this is going to happen. Some things I didn't think all the way through, but on a rudimentary level, I knew that it was wrong. So when I went into that store, or I went into that place with that gun, and I said, lay it down, lay down, I knew that that was wrong before I went and did that. Now, I may not have thought about the details. I may have not covered the details all the way through. Like, what if she don't give up the money and I got this thing on her? What if she don't open that safe? I ain't think about that. What if she opened the safe, I'm in there grabbing the money, she over here, and she pull out a gun and pop, 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 pop. I ain't think about that. What if one of my buddies get trigger happy and kill one of these people? Now we all finna go, our lives are over. And we get caught, we gone. I ain't think about all of that. I ain't think about the details. So oftentimes, youngsters know when they're doing wrong. What they don't consider are the details. But what say you, fam? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Oh, and one other point I want to make. Somebody said, whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? We know that don't exist in America. We know if we see a certain amount of evidence, you did it. In our minds, you did it. Yeah, you got to go to trial and all that. That's what trial and all that is for. But in terms of public opinion, the verdict is still out. No more talk.